tips on investing in property. Hi, I wanted to share with you in this video 5 of my top tips on investing in property and making property investments work for you. Before I get going on those 5 tips, please take a moment to subscribe and like and hit the bell on this video so that you get notified when new videos come out. Also, stay to the end because at the end I will share with you one of the top mistakes that new investors make and of course how to avoid making those mistakes. My name is Jeanette White and I'm a property investor and property mentor. Top tip number 1. Know your property investing goals. It sounds simple, but a lot of people don't have any particular goals other than to make a bit of money. Well, that's okay, but how much money? Is this property business for you topping up your pension pot? Is it something that you see as being something along the lines of generational wealth? Where you can leave a few houses for your children and your children's children. Or are you looking for complete financial freedom? Perhaps you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and you're thinking, hold on, Robert Kiyosaki talks about investing in property. Let me find out more about that. And if that's the case, that's fine as well because you can achieve financial freedom through property. But if you've got a very clear long-term vision, a vision of say 5 years or 10 years time, then it helps you make some fantastic short-term decisions. So when you are out looking at properties that you could invest in, you'll be thinking to yourself, okay, is this going to fit for a short-term vision or is this going to fit in for a long-term plan? Okay, so understanding your goals is very, very helpful so that you make the right decisions at the beginning. Tip number 2, opinions. Everybody has got an opinion. I remember starting out in our property journey with myself and my husband. Even the guy down the pub, and I was running a pub at the time, loads of them seemed to have opinions on property investing. They never invested in anything in their entire lives, but they still had a strong opinion. So on this subject, I just want to say, be wary about opinions. Make sure that the opinion you're listening to is the opinion of someone that is where you want to be. And listen, if you want to take an opinion from somebody who is not where you want to be, I can guarantee that you won't achieve your long-term goals. Okay? It's important to think about, create, design your life. And if you are going to listen to opinions, and by the way, opinions do count, but be sure they are the opinions of at least 3 different people that, as I say, have achieved or are achieving what you want to achieve, or who have specific knowledge in the things that you need to know about. Now, why do I say that? Okay, I say that because, for example, a letting agent knows about letting property. And they will know what areas rent well and what areas cause them problems, okay? So their opinions on lettings areas counts. However, even with something as simple as asking a letting agent their opinions on lettings can go wrong. I've been out on a mentorship where myself and my mentee have had a conversation with a letting agent, and when we asked them about renting by the room, they said, oh no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to get involved in renting room by room. It can be really, really difficult. Now, why did they say that? Simply because they don't do it. Yeah, they have not developed the skills and they're fearful about letting room by room. Now, as it happened, my mentee long-term plan was to have complete financial freedom through property, and quite quickly. Therefore, we were looking at starting over buy-to-let and then moving on to HMOs. And why not? But this particular letting agent did put the fear into my mentee, and I then had to just readjust that to say that letting agent doesn't deal with HMOs. To get opinions on HMOs, we go to somebody who lets out HMOs. Okay, so remember, get 3 opinions of people that have either been where you want to be or are doing it in some way or another. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is to use a letting agent. The reason you want to be using a letting agent is there's just short of over 200 pieces of legislation involved in letting out a property. Now, as a landlord, I don't study those different situations and different legislations in huge amounts of detail. I know the important ones because I ultimately am the person in charge of the property. However, my letting agent is the one that deals with the day-to-day management. And unless you particularly want to be involved in dealing with blocked toilets or a leaking tap or a broken window lock or, that type of thing, then really you want to leave that to a letting agent. Also, think about when they bring the tenant in. We are now expected as landlords to know about immigration. Okay, the right to reside in the UK. What sort of paperwork would somebody need to have the right to reside in the UK? And those are just a very, very small amount of such a huge topic. So my advice is always use a letting agent. My tip for number 4 is about leveraging a mortgage, because it's important to have a good mortgage broker and to leverage a mortgage in your business. And I just want to emphasize the word business. Each house that you have, each property that you have, is an individual business. Now, with any business, if you can get some cash into that business, it's going to operate better. It's going to see a better return because there's less of your money in it. Okay, so just remember, do think about and do use a mortgage. For one reason or another, a lot of people think they are not mortgageable. Okay, they have preconceived ideas about what a good mortgagee looks like. And it's not necessarily the case. Remember, we are looking at buy-to-lets. So that house is a business and they're looking at the business and you in combination rather than just you as an individual. So be aware that the mortgage market itself is huge. A good mortgage broker can investigate all the lenders to see which one matches with you better. Okay, so tip number 4, use a mortgage. Remember to stay to the end of the video because I will be sharing one of the top mistakes new investors often make and of course how to avoid them. Now let's move on to the final tip. Tip number 5 is about the numbers. Know and understand the numbers in your business. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're going to buy a property that is run down, for example, which a lot of investors do, bring that property up to scratch and then rent it out, know what the end value is going to be on that property, okay? Or at least a guesstimate as to what the end value will be. Know as well the target rent you're going to get for that property. So have a little think about it, do some research, what rents in that area for that type of property, and what are rents being achieved. The final thing I would recommend is, if you are going for a property that needs a bit of work, is work out how much money you're prepared to spend on upgrading the property in order for it to rent out and rent out well. Okay, so your refurbishment costs. Even if you're just taking a normal house and then putting it into the private rented sector, be aware that you still need to comply with things such as fire alarms and CO2 alarms, okay? So that's top tip number 5, is to know your numbers. Before I share with you one of the top mistakes that new investors tend to make, just remember to keep an eye out on my channel, where you'll see lots of other videos about return on investments, about becoming a new landlord, and lots of other subjects that may well be of interest to you. So I did promise you that at the end I would share with you one of the top mistakes that new investors make and how to avoid it. Today, in this section, I wanted to talk about your tenants. It's quite important to realise that your tenant is your customer. Something that a lot of new people forget, okay? Particularly investors that actually didn't go out and invest in a property, but they've inherited a property. Your tenant is your customer. Therefore, it stands to reason to look after your tenant. Don't be slow with sorting out problems. Don't drag your heels. If the boiler breaks, get it fixed, and get it fixed fast. This will serve you well in the long run. The average person living in a private rented sector house stays there for about 4.5 years. Now, if you start being a bad landlord, your tenants will only last a year and a half. And each time you change your tenants, it's going to cost you money. Not only is it going to cost you money on having to do a bit of painting, maybe a new carpet, perhaps fix some doors in the kitchen, but also it's going to cost you money that there is a time delay. So at the very least, you've got a month's worth of rent missing. Okay, so that can be anywhere between £500 and £1,500, depending upon where you are in the country. So I'll reiterate that top mistake, is that tenants are your customers. So treat them as a customer. They're a valued customer, and a customer that will be with you for a long time if you treat them right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, remember to subscribe and like the video. Check out the description below for some other useful tools for you to use. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.